SKILLET Sports presents
To the Sizzle on Iron Skillet Radio and Iron Skillet Television.
Welcome in, everyone. You know what it is. It's the Hot Money segment here on Iron Skillet Radio, Iron Skillet Television. And when we're talking about hot money, there's only one person in the building that knows hot money better than anyone else, and that's the dopest chick on your timeline. That is Cimone Casson. And look, Cimone, we got a lot to talk about, but before we can start talking, I've got to ask you, how are you doing today?
I am doing amazing. You know, any day I wake up is my best day. So I'm doing amazing. I'm always in a good mood. And so anytime I get a chance to hang out with you and come on to Sizzle, Iron Sizzle Radio, I'm even happier. So this is amazing. I'm happy. I'm always happy.
Well, we are wonderfully amazed and happy that you're here because I know your schedule's always tight. So let's get into it because I know we got to run. We don't have a lot of time, but let's talk about it. There were some things that just came up, and there was some news that popped up recently about T.I. So we're going to talk about T.I. and the feds. That's what we're going to talk about. We're going to start off with T.I. and the feds and what's really going on, and let the listeners understand what is happening right now in the SEC when it comes to trades and it comes to money. But let me ask you one question. First question, what is cryptocurrency?
Cool. So for those of you who don't know what cryptocurrency is, let's just do a brief little history thing. Right after the bubble bust in 2008, remember, we saw real estate, we saw, lots of companies that were crashing. We really thought that this was not going to be a recession, and it could have possibly been a depression. This guy out of Japan created in the dark web this way of creating currency. And so what you have to understand is that the US dollar, it used to be put on gold standard, right? So we no longer on a gold standard, and the gold standard meant that as much gold as was obtained by the United States, that was how money was issued, and there was a value to it. Well, we're not on the gold standard. We're pretty much on the good effect. So the only reason why money or currency period has a value is because we believe that it has value. You got to understand that. So the moment that we stop trusting into the dollar or anything else, it doesn't have value. I tell people all the time, there was a time when puka shells were value, you know what I mean, where you could do skins and somebody would give you something and you would give them something else in return of that value. And so that's pretty much how money works. Cryptocurrency was created because it was an opportunity for there to be global currency. So right now, if you decided that you wanted to, in the United States, if you wanted to get money to your cousin in Africa, right, then you would have to go to your bank. You would pay a wiring fee, which this would probably take like 3 or 4 days. In addition to that, there would be an interchange rate, meaning the dollar against what it is in Africa or wherever you were sending it. And then it takes time, right? So with cryptocurrency, there was this digital kind of coin that was created. And the people that created, we call them miners, meaning like they're mining these coins out of these different, off of the computer. And so these coins would be created in a value. And then the more coins that were sold, just like supply and demand, the more coins that were sold, the higher the price. And the more coins that were bought, the higher the price. And the more coins that were sold, the lower the price. So that's pretty much the premise, is that cryptocurrency is a digital currency that you are able to utilize value and be able to purchase things and make and it kind of makes a global economy.
A global economy out of cryptocurrency. Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about the news that came out that the SEC has filed charges against T.I. Tip Harris is known for, I don't know, is he misleading the people? Is he scamming the people? Did T.I. set out to scam investors with cryptocurrency?
So let's break this down in a couple different things. As I said, and I wanted to make sure that I said that, is that it's that cryptocurrency, like any other currency, is based on supply and demand, the prices. When people ask me about, well, how do you make money off of currency? If you guys have known people that are utilizing Forex, and may be doing cryptocurrency in that or exchange, it's pretty much the more the dollar, the more that bill or currency is utilized, the higher the price it is. The less that is utilized, the lower the price that it is. So with that being said, I want everybody to keep that in mind. So the coin that he was actually endorsing was Fleet Coin, and then they had a second run, which was called Spark Coin. And so when you think about, so you're probably like, okay, well, what does that mean? Cryptocurrency is credit, right? So think about it like this. Cryptocurrency would be credit. Bitcoin, Flitcoin, whatever it is, hemp coin, those are MasterCard, Visa. Those are the vehicles in which it goes into, right? So cryptocurrency is the actual bubble. You know what I mean? That's the big thing. So just like you have the US dollar, but then you might have the Canadian dollar, the Mexican peso. So all of those are vehicles of a dollar. So you got to keep that in mind. So Flitcoin is simply a coin. It's a way for you to be able to leverage money, assets, whatever. Now, let's talk about this. The reason why Tip got in trouble is because he was doing what we consider a market maker, right? Or a market manipulation, which is illegal, okay? Why is this illegal? Because when I first started this conversation, I explained to you that the price goes on supply and demand, and no one has the ability, or by the SEC, which is the Securities Exchange Commission, to manipulate a price willingly. So what his issue was is a couple different things. He's being accused of one, making a false claim with currency, saying that he was a owner of this Flit coin. He's not an owner of this coin. Okay, so that's the first thing. The second thing is that it was market manipulation. So when you go in, and if I go in, just like me, if I go in, and if you guys notice, I always give general information. There is an important reason for that. It's because I'm too cute to go to jail. You will not put this, it's a nail bracelets on me. Okay. And so what happens is, if you manipulate a platform to get more buyers in an asset, then you are manipulating the market, and that is illegal. The market is supposed to be efficient and be able to leverage itself based on the information and the companies that are involved. Does that make sense?
That makes sense.
So me going on, like right now, if I use this platform and I said, okay, everybody stop the presses. You go and buy ABC stock right today. Guess what? The SEC and FINRA say, hi, Miss Casson, we've been looking for you. And we would love to have this long, in-depth conversation. Not only do we want to talk to you, we want to pull up all of your records. Oh, and turn around and put your arms behind your back, because we're taking your ass to jail. So, or you're going to pay a really big fine. So T.I. decided that he would go onto his Twitter account and really, really endorse these endorse this company at this point. Let me tell you something that I want to say, and I'm going to say this as your sister, as your queen, whether I'm your auntie, whatever it is that y'all want to refer to me as. Right now, we are in a pandemic, and we're in a current situation where we're seeing a lot of opportunities for money enriched things, and that happens anytime you have a crisis, a catalyst, anytime you have anything, whether it was the Great Depression, recession, you will see a lot of people taking opportunities into gaining the wealth or the assets or anything of people, especially poor people, right? And I know that's kind of an oxymoron, wealth of poor, but people are looking for something, whether it's the lotto or whatever, they're looking for it. So I share all of that to say, be leery of a couple people. One, if you are not a financial person, I don't care. You can't endorse nothing to me.
Right.
So be careful of these celebrities who are endorsing products that That's not it, right? So, I mean, I think Tip knows how to make money, but obviously he didn't do his own due diligence, so he ain't gonna do it for you. That's the first thing. The other thing is not just celebrities. Don't be taking financial advice from somebody that's next door to you, and they ain't never had no money. So if this person ain't never had no money, how you gonna come and tell me about how to get some? All of these things, don't look for the get rich quick scheme. There are a lot of opportunities right now that ain't nothing but the banana in the tailpipe. You're not gonna make no money from it, right?
Okay.
All right. So that's pretty much with that. Now, last thing that you probably want to know about the cryptocurrency and the thing with T.I. is that I don't know if he knew that he was going to do. He ended up raising a loan was probably about 1,000. I think it was $164,000. With that, he's been able to settle for $75,000. In settlement. So be very, very careful. Last thing that I will tell you guys, if you notice and you follow me, you never see me endorse a platform again, because my honor and my honesty leads with my people. And so I always suggest that everybody does their due diligence, but you never see me endorse Susu. I don't endorse Forex. I'm not against Forex, but I don't endorse these MLM programs, because I'm going to tell you, right now, they're making more money off of you signing up than they are actually trading. So it is what it is. And I don't care who says it, everybody knows it. So it is what it is.
Not only was that informative, that was a good way to segue into our next topic. When we talk about the COVID situation and what's happening right now in our society, we're asking, COVID and your money. How's the COVID affecting your investments right now? How is this playing out with investors as we go through this pandemic time?
Great question. So COVID has created very, very volatile, but increasingly it's steady. The market is steady increasing, right? So we're steady seeing increasing. We're seeing lows, but we're seeing record highs, right? So just look at like you were going down the steps. So if you were going up the steps and then you had a dip, but then you had a real sharp and you had a dip, then you had a real sharp, then you had a dip, and that's pretty much been the pattern for the stock market for 2020. So let's look at some things that have been happening in 2020 that, like, if you've been living under a rock and don't really know. So a couple things is that all of them for the last 20 years, definitely last decade, definitely, we have seen some of the highest highs in the stock market, period, right? And so if your portfolio is not doing at least a double digit 10-11%, then you are definitely investing in the wrong things and you're not probably doing it correctly. Doesn't mean, but there's some opportunity there. So when we talk about COVID, a couple things that we kind of really see, standing out. Of course, our tech companies. Tech companies are winning, winner, chicken dinner. Not only are they winning in the space of them actually increasing in their stock prices, but more and more tech companies are going public. Why? Because they are now being a part of our new normal. Medical companies are really doing well also. So when we're looking at this, how is it actually affecting our wallet? Of course, those sectors are doing really well. But in addition to that, we are in we're in a situation where we have a little bit more time where we can actually be able to monitor our portfolios a little bit more. So is this a time for you to be able to buy and hold? That is a great strategy you have long term, but understand this. COVID is still creating dips. So understand, if you're buying a stock at a premium, meaning that you're buying it when it's shot up, you are probably going to lose 50% of your wallet within 6 months. Reason being is because it's still going to have those lows.
That's interesting. The dips and we learned earlier, then we've talked about it before, that you buy at the dip and not the rip.
Buy the dip, not the rip.
That's right. So we've learned that.
Understand it. So if you buy, so let's say the dip is, let's say you find the dip and it's $10, right? And then you see that it ranks up until $19, right? And you say, oh, okay, everybody's on Facebook talking about it. Well, if you buy it at $19, guess what? Within the 6 months, it's probably going to get back down to 15, 13, right? And which would probably be a better opportunity. So you want to buy it when it's in the dip. And now it probably will in the long term get back to 20, 25, but you've already bought it at a premium. So making sure that we're understanding that there's a lot of volatility, and that if you're looking to make a volatile environment is a great way to make income in the stocks, but it's also a way for you to lose money if you are not creating a strategy, a plan, and watching your portfolio.
Yeah, that is so, you know what, we learn so much every time we sit down and talk about hot money and how to get money. But one of the biggest things that we've got to talk about is in 2020, how is your money working for you? What is your money actually doing for you? And how are you making it work? So we're going to talk about, for the next few minutes, some things in 2020 now that can help guide you with your money and your investments. So let's start off initially. Let's ask this. Cimone, how does this election season and what we're getting ready to do in this country, how is it affecting the stock market?
Well, okay, so there's that old adage, well, it's not an old adage, but a couple different things happen. And so there's a narrative that we have that the S&P picks the president 80, I think it's over 80% of the time. And what that means is that the S&P, which is an index, right? And we'll talk a little bit more about index. We're going to talk about that too. But the S&P, which is an index, and the index is where we kind of use as a benchmark, meaning that a collection of companies, and then that is leveraged, and then those averages and it's leveraged as a benchmark to kind of let us know how the market is going. Because at the end of the day, it's like 630,000 stocks that are traded globally every day. So how can you measure that, right? There, for every day, like during the Great Depression or the recession, there was a company that did horrible, and then there was also a company that probably did well, right? And there's always that. So even on the best days and the worst days, there's always that. So you got to be able to understand that. But the S&P is notably for picking the president, and how it does is usually it says that if the S&P 500 index is up 90 days election within that 90 days and it stays up, then the incumbent president wins. If the stock market is down that 90 days before the election, the newcomer wins. So with that being said, a lot is centered around economics, right? So right now we are kind of teetering where we could be abreast or approaching one of the worst economic developments of our time. Although they're trying to put the stimulus and everything else out, we are still, the numbers are not really reflecting, because if you know how unemployment is reported kind of convoluted. It's kind of, crazy. It's, people that haven't, that stop looking for work no longer count. There's a bunch of people that don't count with this. So we're looking at possibly approaching one of the largest evictions, repossession that we possibly see if there are not more policies and stimulus put in place. But then with that, we're also stimulating, we're already in a large deficit as a federal country. So what does that look like? So right now we are really teetering on what that's going on. In addition to that, racial uproar and racial equity is a big thing. So how are these companies, larger major companies, not only on the end of their employees, are they treating their employees well, and are they giving back to the communities, but also now African Americans and brown people even more so are demanding that these companies speak to them, meaning that we're not going to just buy products that are not for our community and not actually addressing us and our needs. So what is that consumer dollar going to look like? Although we're seeing an increase in tech, but a lot of retail will see a lot of pushback from us as decide to choose more culturally diverse and culturally appropriate brands. And so we'll see a lot of that going on in the market.
So right now, how is this moment affecting what we're seeing right now between the Democratic and the Republican nominee? How is the stock market affecting this election moving forward?
Well, the stock market, like I said, depending on a lot of the times the stock market, if the stock market is up, then the incumbent usually kind of stays and hangs out, and they stay reelected. And the S&P has picked like 80% of the president since inception, so they got a pretty big run. Don't know, that does not mean anybody's vote or whatever. So make sure we're clear on that. And then, of course, if it's not impacting stocks right now, the stock market used to be extremely sensitive. Right? It used to be really, really sensitive to any type of global or anything going on. We have seen now that the stock market is a strong chick, right? And so there is not a lot of wavering that's going on, meaning that before you would hear a headline news or something like COVID or a current situation would totally wipe out the market before, the old market that we know. Now she does not move as quickly as before. So as it stands right now, one thing, the couple things that we're seeing more and more companies are going public, right? So every day we're being able to see that. We've also established a new exchange. I don't know if everybody knows about it. It's called the Long-Term Stock Exchange. So that's a new exchange where there are long-term companies that will be traded on this exchange. We're definitely seeing a lot of new normals. In addition to that, opportunities that we're offering to only accredited investors, meaning investors that have like $250,000 or more to invest. Now those opportunities are often offered to us, regular people. So all of these things and these great developments are happening, and that is one of the ways how the election can be impacted, because not only are companies looking to buy to get our consumer dollars and to be able to get us shareholders with Robinhood and everything else. But in addition to that, politicians are actually, need to be able to create plans to help build wealth so that they can also get our votes.
Okay. So I know that your main interest is in the marijuana stock industry and what's going on as far as marijuana is concerned. So let's talk about it. Let's talk about some of the changes that marijuana companies are going through during this COVID period and election period. What are some of those new changes or some things developing that the listeners should know about as we're marching through, going through the pandemic now with marijuana companies?
Well, we're not seeing the big increase in marijuana stocks as we saw before. And let's talk about why. When we first started off in marijuana, when I started investing and how I made that money, it was because investors were investing in marijuana stocks with the belief that this was going to be an emerging industry, right? Which it has been. But there was no basis on this, meaning that the financial statements were not there. Okay. So these companies had no record of success. You just happened to be in the weed industry. They went public and we bought it. That was pretty much it. Now, after we look at 5 years later, now investors are making these companies put their money where their mouth is, right? So this is important. You got to put your money where your mouth is. So we're demanding now to be able to look at the management team. We're demanding now that the balance sheets and the income statements are. We're demanding now that the earnings reports are looking well. So a couple things we're seeing on macro level is that we are seeing a lot of these companies are doing big bank, little bank, where the big boys are obtaining these smaller brands. And that happens on the big level. And I'm also seeing that in a lot of states locally, where you will see a lot of these big companies will obtain some of these smaller brands. In addition to that, what else is happening? Election, when we talk about our election, one of the things that is really, really important is that we have about 11 states who have marijuana on their books. So right now there's 36 that are medical, 11 that are medical and adult use. So we're looking, I think, maybe 5 that are adult use on their books, and then another 6 that are looking for medical. So the movement is going really, really strong. All of this is federal, right? And so there are several bills that are putting it federal marijuana federally. What does that mean to investors? Really cool. One, as more and more territories open up, these companies get a chance to go in, and they get a chance to make more money, which gets a chance for us to have better balance sheets, which gives investors a better expectation, so they will buy more stocks and the prices will go up.
Okay. Hopefully that's the key.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about one thing before we get ready to walk out the door. I've heard a lot of news, and I don't know where it actually stands, but we've talked about minority ownership. We're talking about African-American ownership, melanated ownership in cannabis companies. And there seems to be a fight now to get more cannabis companies Black owned, or businesses that deal with cannabis being Black owned. Is that something that we need to look and keep an eye on moving forward? Or is it something that's going to work itself out through the system?
Oh, hell no, it ain't gonna work itself out. That's the last thing that we need to do. So one of the hats that I wear is I am the racial equity chairwoman for business development for Michigan. And so my goal and my job is to pretty much assist with creating pathways for racial equity. And to me, that looks like a couple different things, right? And so what we have to do, and I think this is the thing that is very, very important, is that we have to make people understand that diversity is profitable. Right? Mm-hmm. That there is a win-win situation, that we have to understand that in this space of an emerging market and industry, we have to be able to put in policies, procedures that do not create a unilateral relationship, that there are predatory situations. And I want to be clear with that. Anytime you have a one-sided relationship, you create a opportunity for a predator. And one thing that I try to tell everybody in life, you either a hoe or you can't, one or the other. Mm-hmm. So we have to be able to understand that racial equity is not a Section 8 check for a marijuana business. We need to be able to create these platforms where these businesses are staying in inception for long term. So that means, one, creating funding and entryways for people that are minorities, right? Because we know that in most cases, there's 2 things that are going to be standing in our way. One is going to be the lack of funding, because we've systematically been put out of being able to build wealth. And then 2, it's actually going to be criminal, because we know Black and brown people are 3 to 4 times more likely to be convicted of a crime, especially marijuana. So making sure that that's done, and there's education and incubators and pathways on entrepreneurship. In addition to that, creating a fair market in wages. The first thing that we would want to be able to do, because we understand everybody is not an entrepreneur. So with that employment piece, what does that look like? Meaning that we're creating market wages. If a grower in the state goes for $20 an hour, we can't have opportunities where a company decides to pay Hector $17 an hour, but pay Jacob $30 an hour. So creating a fair market wage, and then of course making sure that we create fair market supply and demand, because if a large corporation, weed is a commodity. So if a large corporation gets a chance and they have the commodity go up by 20%, a large corporation can stay in inception. A small corporation, 20% on a markup on a commodity would totally put them out of business. And then last but not least, make sure that these larger corporations actually vow for our dollars. So they need to speak to us, they need to participate in our communities, and they need to be able to give back while we are not only consumers, employees, and entrepreneurs, and create a fair market that has diversification as profitability.
It's so much that we just put into the show. I'm still back at the diversity is profitable. I don't like that statement. That is a powerful statement moving forward to
Yeah, I got
understand
that
how
from
this
Dr.
works.
Lance McCarty. Dr. Lance McCarty, who is he is the cannabis banker, but he talks a lot about that. So if you guys get a chance, follow him too. But yeah, diversity is definitely profitable. And if we create that platform and create that narrative, having racial equity becomes a no-brainer. Right? We're and we have to leverage what we have. One, we have the stake in the communities that these companies want to be in. In addition to that, we're the highest and most influential consumers. They need to be able to speak to us. We see other industries, Target is doing it, quite a bit of other ones. And so being able to pool that and leverage that is a great opportunity for everybody involved on the states, on the federal, in the communities, and on as the consumers.
That is so much good information. I think we're going to leave it there. Because I don't want to give them too much. Their heads will explode. Yeah, their heads will explode. They can't have all of this. They got to come back.
Are you sure?
Yeah, I'm sure they had to come back and get some more, because we got some more to come. This is really great information. And listen, if you're not following us and you're not, on to what's going on, please feel free to follow and like us at walk with me, #skillet_sports. That way you can find anything that Iron Skillet Sports is doing, and you can find hot money right there. Make sure that you find us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. You can find us YouTube. You'll find Iron Skillet Radio, Iron Skillet Television. So, Cimone, before we get out of here, do you want to leave the people with some wonderful words from Cimone, something that gives the people hope and inspiration?
Yes, definitely. So I want you guys, if you've been following us, we have this thing that's going on, it's going to go on. Well, but it's 5 days to building wealth. You go to our website, www.ccimonecasson.com. I don't know what happened, but ccimonecasson.com, and you can join for a free webinar. 5 days building wealth. It is amazing. I love it, love it, love it. So actually go into 5 different ways for you to build wealth. So the first day you get a video, you can watch the video. It's global investing. We talk about investing to Ghana. I will be going to Ghana December 10th. And so we're going there to talk about different investment opportunities. Next one that you'll do is how to get into a startup. If you are looking to do a startup, or if you want to become an angel investor in a startup, this is a great time to be able to do it. You might have a friend who has a great business and you believe him, but you don't want to do too much. What opportunities and what things you need to look for. On the 3rd day, we will be talking about co-op farming and cultivation, not just in the green rush, but period. Cultivation and co-op farming is one of the biggest you can invest in agriculture. We're going to continue to need this. Day 4 is going to talk about how you can create an income stream in Forex. And then, of course, day 5, you hang out with your girl where I tell you everything you need to know about the stock market. So that's what it is. You can go on, you actually do the pop-up, and then at that point, and I think you guys are going to have, you have a link on SIZZLE. You do the pop-up, you do whatever, and then we get it done. And you can join it. And then there's a bunch of other stuff you can do while you're there.
Yeah, all the links will be linked in on the videos. And if you're listening to SIZZLE Radio, the only thing you can do is go on and find the link, but we'll give you all that information in the description, and you'll have everything where you can go and find all this information. Please, I encourage you for this 5 days, go in and empower yourself. Go in and build yourself. Go in and get some strength.
And it's free.
Yeah, it's free. That's the key. That's the biggest key. It's free. How much more? It can't cost any more than free. Free. It's free. So listen, for the dopest chick on your timeline, Cimone Casson, and for your host, I'm Gregory Lewis. We want to thank you for listening to another episode of Hot Money, the hottest talk and the hottest money information you can find anywhere on the planet. We want to thank you, and we'll see you again.